Good evening, councillors. Welcome to the full council meeting on this 8th of July 21. The first item on the agenda, on this evening's agenda, is apologies for absence. Because we are holding this meeting with limited capacity in the council chamber due to the current COVID restrictions, a number of councillors have been unable to attend this evening. We will note that the fact in the minutes of this meeting. The next item on the agenda is item 2, confirmation of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes to consider this evening. First, can I please have a proposal for the minutes of the council meeting held on the 22nd of April 21 to be approved as a correct record?
Happy to propose those, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Does anyone want to comment on the factual accuracy of the minutes or propose an amendment? Would those members present at the 22nd of April, I'm saying that loudly so you all remember if you were here, who are in favour of confirming the minutes as a correct record, please indicate. Is anybody against those? No. Any abstentions? No. The minutes of the 22nd of April meeting are confirmed. Can I please propose that the minutes of the annual general meeting held on the 13th of May be approved as a correct record?
Propose those, Madam Mayor. Second those, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Does anyone want to comment on the factual accuracy of the minutes or propose an amendment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It states I was here and I was in the Lake District.
Oh, how charming.
So it's a good trick and I can do it.
I presume we've recorded that now. Would those members present at the 13th of May meeting who are in favour of confirming the minutes as a correct record please indicate? Those against? Any abstentions? That's been approved and confirmed. The next item on the agenda is declaration of interest. Do any members or officers have any interest to declare on any items included on this agenda? Thank you, Councillor Collinson. Moving on to item 4, Cabinet membership and responsibilities. Councillor Henderson, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report is before members. The recommendations at 3.1 and 3.2. I would just like to add that I should like to give my thanks to Councillor Vincent for all the work that he has done for Wyre Council in his responsibility as a portfolio holder and as the deputy leader, stepping in to take the leadership position when absolutely necessary. He's been a very, very good mentor indeed to myself when I took up a portfolio position and also then the leadership position. It's a shame he can't be here tonight, of course, because we're limited. And I wish him well in his new position at Lancashire County Council. And if he looks after their finances as well as he's looked after ours, they will do very well. I'm glad that Councillor Vincent has put himself forward for Deputy Leader within the group and therefore Deputy Leader of the Council, and I wish him well in that. Also, Councillor Collinson, I'm glad that Alice accepted my invitation to become a planning policy and economic development portfolio holder, and Alice of course brings a wealth of knowledge to that position. So it's the recommendations at 3.1 and 3.2, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions And the report is noted. Thank you. I do wish the new Cabinet members every success, and we're really pleased you're here. And to note that thanks to Alan Vincent for all the work he's done in Wyre. Thank you. Item 5, announcements. Well, I always say I haven't got any, so I decided I'd better have some this evening. So, councillors, as you are aware, the last 18 months have been a terrible time for everyone. People losing family, friends, neighbours, loved ones, residents being furloughed and many losing jobs. As councillors, we've all been very busy supporting our residents, so I felt it was not appropriate to host any events or to fundraise. In the forthcoming weeks, we are hoping that life will start to be a new beginning. Things will gradually get back to some normality. So I'm hoping that you will support me with my charities, which are Doherty's Destiny Mental Health in High Schools, the Men's Shed and Veterans Breakfast Club. So sitting down, I thought, what can I do to fundraise? Something to entice all of you. So I thought, let's find something everybody will enjoy. So I've done a selection. Promoting our local businesses throughout Wyre is extremely important. So I'm starting with the garden party, supporting local businesses promoting their wares. We will then have World Cuisine in Wyre, which will be nights out to entice your taste buds. I thought, well, if you do eat, you might put on a bit of weight. Seeing mine's not going down as promised. So, a golf day. Let's get the swing into action. And if you've got a burning idea that somebody gets on your nerves, we'll have a shooting day. We'll have a bit of a shoot. And if you want to know your future, I've booked a psychic night. There will be concerts and music events, finishing off with the Mayor's Ball before Christmas. I do hope you will come along, have some fun and support the charities. All proceeds will go to my Mayor's charity. Howard, would you like to give the forthcoming dates, please?
Yeah, if you'd like to get your diaries or pens ready. The forthcoming events are at the moment, on the 30th of August, Bank Holiday Monday, is the Mayor's Garden Party, and that's the Man's Shed at Cleveley's. And where's the venue of that?
It's on North Drive Park in Cleveley's.
Thank you. On the 14th of September is a psychic night and meal, and that will be at the Tramway at Cleveley's. And first, this is our first of our meals from around the world in Wyre. On the 15th of September, there's a clay oven Indian restaurant, and that's in Thornton. On the 3rd of December will be the Mayor's Ball, and that will be at the Marine Hall. And the next one on the list is the 22nd of April, which will be a golf competition and which will be at Knott End Golf Club. There will be further announcements as other venues are penciled in. Please note that Andrew Mullen will be emailing out all the events with the costings on it. I do hope that you are all going to try and support as many as possible. And we'd like donations of tombola, which would be very much appreciated. So all those lovely birthday presents that your auntie gave her that you never really want, or the Christmas jumper that you never could fit, bring. So I won't say what I said before to you. So please bring them along, notify me, I will arrange to, we'll get them collected, and let's put them to good use for the Mayor and the funds, and let's support these charities which do need supporting. Thank you.
Sorry, but I missed one of the dates, the date for the psychic night. I think I know a few people who might be interested.
Your magic ball will be on the 14th of September.
Right.
You shouldn't need to tell that.
Sorry. Sorry. And the other question was, I thought we were shooting people. Where's that one gone?
Just to give you an update, we're going to organise that in March, but we haven't officially got it through. It's going to be, I'm talking with Graham Holden. Graham Holden at the moment is very busy with his bird laying and his business, and it's out of season, and it'd be more prudent to have it in March. Don't worry, it was intentional.
You haven't got all the dates yet, but as we go along and we do meet up, we'll have more dates to come, and hopefully we'll get you out there enjoying world cuisine in Wyre. I thought was appropriate because it's promoting our businesses that have struggled through the pandemic, and it'd be great to get them up and running and make them feel really good. So let's see. And most of the things that we promote will be made in Wyre, I hope. So if you know anybody that wants to stall at the garden party, please let me know. We want local business to get up there and help them. Right, going back to the serious business. Item 6. We're not going for a 6-minute finish tonight. So public questions and statements. However, there are no questions from the public this evening, so we'll move on to item 7. Questions on notice from councillors. However, there are also no questions on notice from councillors this evening, so we'll move on to item 8, executive reports. First, the report of the Leader of the Council. Councillor Henderson, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have nothing extra to add to the report that's in front of members, and I'm happy to take questions.
Are there any questions or comments? I think it's Councillor Armstrong first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Henderson, and just looking for some clarity really on the Centre for Governance and Scrutiny review that's just been done recently. I just have a few questions, so I'll jot through the questions and then you can respond after I've got through the questions. So I've got, what are we doing to ensure scrutiny acts in an impartial and non-political, fact-based way to challenge the Cabinet? What are we doing to clarify the cross-party role of scrutiny and ensuring all members of scrutiny have an equal voice? Improving the role of scrutiny in a policy development and holding the Cabinet to account? Are we ensuring invited witnesses stick to fact-based, non-political replies? Ensuring a more formalised approach for recommendations to Cabinet? Are we ensuring scrutiny has early access to and more involvement in the core policy and decision-making activities of Cabinet? And finally, increasing the role of scrutiny in the Council's budgetary, financial and performance improvement activities.
Thank you very much indeed, Craig, for those questions. One simple answer, 2 answers actually. First of all, because you've put down so many and also searching questions, I'm going to give you a written reply on that. But straight off the top of the head is the first thing that came to my mind after we'd been involved in that session was training. That's the bottom line. It's as simple as that. It's training, and the training has to be ongoing all the time, and it has to be specified. But to your particular questions, I will get you a written answer.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Fail, please. I'll make it amplified.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to echo the thoughts of Councillor Henderson at para 5.1. The coordination of vaccinations in Wyre's buildings has been extremely effective, and on behalf of the Labour group, I want to thank all the officers involved in helping us to get where we are now. So I think 86% first dose and 75% second dose in Wyre as of yesterday. You can't get much better than that at the moment. It's one of the best, if not the best, in the country. So well done to the officers involved.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah, you're right, and it's absolutely superb, and I'm glad you've said what you've said, and you're quite right on the 75%. When we were up at 68%, which was the one that was on the BBC News, the national news, I was watching it, and it said Wyre Council are the top ones in the country, and we've maintained that position, and I think that's absolutely superb. And it's down to officers and the NHS that have worked round Wyre, and it's brilliant. So thank you for your words.
Councillor Sturziker.
Hi, Dave. Being nice. Well, if your mother had been here, I'd have said David. It's regarding point 7 of your report. 37% of Fleetwood residents have no car, compared with 26% across England. 26% of children in Fleetwood are living in poverty, compared with 17% in England. 33% of people aged 16 to 74 are in full-time employment. The England average is 39%, and 13.4% of working-age people have a degree in Fleetwood. Across England, that's more than doubled to 27.4%. The residents of Fleetwood have to either leave town or pay privately for a 16 years plus education and higher. As a local authority, we should be doing all we can to help improve the lives of residents. Over 3,000 people signed a petition, including Paul Maynard, to reinstate the rail link to Fleetwood. Paul Maynard changed his mind and decided trams will do. Well, a majority of Fleetwood residents I've listened to disagree and believe a heavy rail link is necessary to help regenerate the Fleetwood economy and tourism. Not to mention helping people unclog the motorways and save hours in travel time for education. Wyre currently has one station without adequate parking. There's room by Project Neptune for a park and ride system, and a platform with one track would fit between the cycle path and the fencing. Will Wyre commit to supporting Fleetwood and consequently the rest of Wyre with a heavy rail link being reinstated?
It's keeping an open mind, because if you look in the Blackpool Fylde and Wyre Economic Prosperity Board report, this came up at the meeting that we had regarding everything still being open, trams, heavy rail or light, whichever way it goes. And I've got to say that every time I've sat down and listened to those that know as such, it keeps coming back to the obvious answer is the tram. That's the obvious answer, but that doesn't mean that that's absolutely the correct answer or that that will happen. So it has to be kept open. I mean, this meeting we had was only a couple of weeks ago, and it was trying to move along to see which is the best way to go forward on this. The thing about this now is actually to keep pushing it. That's the thing now. It's got rolling, really, to use it. So it's got rolling. It is being worked out which is the best way to go. And don't forget that only a few years ago, Wyre paid out a lot of money to do initial surveys, and the money was getting really, really heavy, that we couldn't continue putting that kind of money in. But we wanted to push it along. But now we've got the second opportunity to push it along, and that's what we want to do. When it comes to the end of what's best, then we shall look at what's best. So, to answer your question, I would not commit just to heavy rail. And I actually wouldn't commit just to tram as well. And I wouldn't commit to the one that's right in the middle. All I would commit to is getting going, making sure we know where it's going to end. It's going to end at Polton Station. Have a look at where it's going to start and what's the best way around it. That's the answer I give you at the moment.
Thank you.
No other questions? That concludes the consideration of the Leader's report. We will now move on to the report of the Resources Portfolio Holder. Before you start, Michael, can I just say, if anybody's extremely warm, if you want to take your jackets off, please do so. I'm sat here because I'm hot, but like this, I'm sorry to say, but I can see you all. I thought it might be warm, so if you are, please take them off.
Thank
How
you,
rude not to come with jackets on. No, I'm only kidding. So, Councillor Michael Vincent, would you please like to introduce your report? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have nothing to add to the report before members other than to say at 3.1, the employee sickness figures, I think the report is correct that there will be an element of home working having helped with that. But given that we have given what we have been through, I think it is absolutely brilliant that the officers have got these figures down quite so much and committed themselves so much, because some of them must have worked at home while isolating when it would have been easy for them not to. So they should all be commended on their commitment to Wyre.
So, any questions or comments? I believe it's Councillor Fail, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report at 3.1 highlights a positive emerging from this pandemic, i.e. the effect on the sickness rate of working from home. On the face of it, this increases productivity. And with my climate change policy group hat on, increased working from home can only help with the reduction of carbon emissions. But we also have to recognise there will be some downsides, such as less effective team working and reduced communication. With all that in mind, what are the plans for the future with officers working from home?
Councillor Vincent, would you like to respond, please?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. It's too early to answer that. The senior officers have put together a hybrid working group. The purpose of that will be to look at the way we can achieve more home working for various reasons, productivity and climate change, as you say, Councillor Fail, but also how we then deal with the fact that there will need to be more face-to-face meetings than we are currently allowed. So it's being looked at, but I can't give you a complete strategy yet because that group hasn't completed its work.
That concludes the of the resources portfolio holders report. We will now move on to item C.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've nothing more to add except to say that if anybody hasn't been to see the Mount at Fleetwood yet, I really urge you to go there. It is the jewel in our crown. It is most beautiful. I'm going there a lot. I sort of take the dog for a walk around there, and I have to say it is staggeringly beautiful. If you found that in a city centre, you would gasp. And we have it here. So go to Fleetwood, have a look, maybe have a cup of coffee and spend some money locally as well. Okay.
Are there any questions, comments for Councillor Bridge? I believe Councillor Fail, you have a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. From May to July 20, Q3, only 2 fixed penalty notices were handed out for dog fouling. In August to October 2020, it was 6 fixed penalty notices. From November 20 to January 21, no fixed penalty notices were handed out. It's not clear how many were handed out from February to April 21, but it was a maximum of 5. Now, this may be because of significant reduction in patrols, but whatever the reason, the level of FPNs for dog fouling at the worst time of the year is not acting as a deterrent. On dark nights, owners are far more likely not to pick up after their dogs. So does the council need a complete rethink on what the patrols are trying to achieve and how they go about that? Because it looks like the situation with regard to dog muck is getting worse, not better.
Well, you have to first of all bear in mind that the patrols all went into COVID work, but leaving that aside, I don't know what you want, because you can't force somebody to get their dog to foul in front of you and walk away from it. And if I know from vast experience of always owning dogs, when you see other people, they don't pick up after their dog when they don't see anybody else around. So if there's a warden walking about, they're going to pick it up. So I don't know what you want. I genuinely don't know, short of having somebody stood on every street corner all day, every day, because I know when I walk my dog, it is appalling. And when it is, we get it cleaned up. But we can't actually catch people when they're looking around. It'd be rather like you parking on a zebra crossing when there's traffic wardens stood there. You don't do it. It's the same with people picking up their dog mess. And I wish to God that everybody did. I've got dog bags in my pocket now. But some people don't. We do our best, but you can't just catch them. You can't just say, right, today I'm going to go and catch 7 people because they've not cleared up after the dog. And there'll be 70 people out there not clearing up. But they'll pick it up if they see a warden. That's a problem.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong?
Yeah, just a quick one. I noted on my way to work that the alleyway by the side of Fairest Grove has been cleaned up by the street scene team, and they put barriers up now to try and stop the fly tipping, which happens all the time. So just a quick thanks to the street scene team, really, and I'll be keeping an eye on any more fly tipping that they do try and put in there.
I mean, thank you for reporting it. That's what we need. We just need people to report it. And the street scene team are fantastic. I mean, of all the boroughs, I don't know of any team that's as effective and as proactive as well. They really are. But we just need people like yourself to just go online or whatever else, report it, and they're down and get it sorted. But thank you.
Councillor George?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I myself have reported a number of similar incidents, fly tipping, dog fouling, etc. There have been a number of incidents, and I've mentioned it a few times now. There's been an increase in littering around the Mount area, and you just spoke about how beautiful the Mount is, and it is absolutely stunning. I'm very, very lucky that I literally live one street away from the Mount. Unfortunately, that means that at night time, if you're going for a walk, it's a very slippery place. And that is due to the dog fouling. A number of neighbours of mine, not just on my street, but also on the road where the Mount is, have reported this, and they've also said that they have CCTV, and this hasn't been collected. So I was just wondering if that could be followed up, please. It's been mentioned a few times now and hasn't been followed up. But there has been an increase in dog fouling, fly tipping, littering in the area, and it would be just such a shame that the Mount is so beautiful, and I really don't want people to be not coming along. There's been a number of fires set in the town as well, which I know that that's not really your area. However, just to make you aware of what is going on, you spoke about toilets in your report and how the independent inspection of public toilets still took place last year, and I'm pleased to report our facilities managed in partnership with Danfo scored highly once again in the Loo of the Year award. Well, the very loo that received that award was actually set fire to last weekend, and outside the Marine Hall, and is no longer in use. It happens to be a disabled toilet, and it is one of the only disabled toilets that are accessible to. There's two kinds of disabled toilets. There is a disabled toilet and there's a toilet with a disabled sign on. And unfortunately, it is one of the only disabled toilets that we actually have that is genuinely a disabled toilet. So what I'm asking for really is the enforcement officers to be looking at that and to be concentrating in those areas, because this is not just about littering and fly tipping. This could genuinely change people's lives as to whether they could use a bathroom or not.
I mean, absolutely. It's disgraceful what has happened there, especially with the toilets. But if you look at the breakdown, the percentage of time that enforcement officers are spending in Fleetwood, because they are proactive, and we do have a finite resource, but we have pushed a lot of hours towards Fleetwood to try and address this behaviour. We will carry on doing so. When an area has a spike, I mean, there was a spike at Fulton at one point, and we went up and sorted that. We'll carry on with Fleetwood. We will prosecute fly tippers. With regard to the fire, well, of course, that's a police matter. And I know from wearing another hat, not a councillor's hat, there's a lot of antisocial behaviour at the moment going on in Fleetwood, and I really can't say any more about that than you know that there is, and certain individuals that are involved in it. So as a council, we can't solve that bit, but what we can do, as I say, is be proactive, go out, tidy where we can, when we do, and we do. We really are very, very busy. In fact, the resources we put into cleaning up in Fleetwood is greater than anywhere else, because at the moment we need it. And so if an area needs it, we spend the time and money there, and we're doing our best with that. Okay?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Of the fixed penalty notices actually issued, successful appeals are running at around 40%. So what lessons are being learned about incorrectly issued fixed penalty notices?
Well, there can be various reasons why they've been incorrectly issued, none completely obvious. For instance, somebody could be under the age of 18, but they look older, or somebody could have a mental health problem that isn't immediately obvious to the officer. There are very few where it's a straightforward I didn't drop that piece of litter because we have body cameras on our officers. So the ones that the appeals are winning, where they're winning their appeals, and rightly so, that's why the system's there. I believe it's robust. I believe it works and it's in place. And I think it acts as a great tool for us to make sure that we are being fair. And I think that is being fair. Rather like going to court, if everybody's found guilty, then you'd be worried, wouldn't you? So there are lots of a myriad of reasons that aren't completely obvious to people straight away, to the officers straight away. But when it goes to appeal and those are explained, then we are very reasonable. We do not want to enforce. Of course, we're not in this to raise revenue. Any revenue that comes from this to us goes back into actually education, etc., about stopping littering. So it's not as if it just goes in the coffers. So therefore, there are lots of reasons that are very difficult to see just at first blush.
No more questions? That concludes the consideration of the street scene, parks and open space. I move on to item D, planning policy and economic.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report is before you, and I'd be pleased to take any questions or comments. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Councillor Atkins, Lady Atkins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Under 3.1, master planning, I'm just delighted to see that actually we're talking about a possible new primary school on Cochrane Road, because the one in Kirkland, the school there, they're turning a pupil away, a person away, a child away every day. Is getting that bad. And I know that in Garstang, our primary schools are absolutely chock-a-block. So I do hope that this does go through, because it's a much needed amenity. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that, Dulcie. I do too, because we keep building houses, but there's going to be nowhere for these young children to get an education, so it is very important that we do get the school. Thank you for that.
Councillor Longton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Collinson, how do you square this wish for a housing-led regeneration with the 2005 North West Regional Spatial Strategy Report to Wyre's Cabinet that stated housing provision should be a response to economic growth and not a prelude to it?
Obviously, the partial review is a live review, so it is constantly being looked at. And I do think that it's important that we do keep those reviews up to date. There's very little else I can tell you at the moment, but hopefully there'll be some more reports due shortly.
Councillor Sturzaker, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Congratulations on your new position, for one. And I'd just like to say we are so pleased with the levelling up application bid being submitted. Congratulations to all the officers, and fingers crossed this time we're successful. There are 27.1 persons per hectare in Fleetwood, compared with 4.3 across England. 32% of people have no qualifications, 22.5 across England. People in Fleetwood have a life expectancy of 4 years less than the rest of England. A housing-led regeneration won't help these statistics. Fleetwood needs jobs and transport infrastructure before more housing. Our children are leaving the area to go to college and university and then can't come back because there's no work. Mental health problems in our children are on the increase, as the hopes of a fulfilling life are presented with the negatives of no work at the end of their education. Our children should not have to move hundreds of miles away for employment. As I stated before, 26% of children in Fleetwood live in poverty, compared with 17% across England. We should be supporting and encouraging these children to achieve their dreams by leading a jobs and transport-led regeneration of Fleetwood, and I ask you please to re-evaluate the housing-led regeneration plan.
Thank you. As you can see from most of this report, there's a lot of things going to happen in Fleetwood, and some of those are going to bring jobs to Fleetwood. And obviously we have to wait until the bids are secure. But they've just launched on the Wednesday the 30th of June, the Neptune project. And that is an investment of 9 million. So I've often thought since the ships and P&O pulled out that part of Fleetwood needs some massive regeneration in it. And I'm glad to see that hopefully these bids going forward will do that. So that will equate, hopefully, to some more jobs in Fleetwood. Thank you.
No more comments or questions, so that concludes the consideration of the planning policy and economic development portfolios holders report. We'll now go on to item E, Neighbourhood Services and Community Safety Portfolio Holder. Councillor Berry, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My report's before members. I'll do my best to reply to any questions raised.
Sorry, I was just noting everybody that wants to speak so I didn't miss anybody out. So are there any questions and comments for Councillor Berry? We're starting off with Councillor George, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Berry, I noted in your report in, I'm sorry, I've lost the page now, but on disabled facilities grants, 163 disabled facilities grants were granted in 2021. And 473 minor adaptations. I'd just like to say on behalf of those 636 families that thank you. That is absolutely amazing. During a pandemic, when we were on very, very limited services, 636 people's lives have been actively made better by this council, and they've been able to live their lives independently. And I think that that's something we should celebrate. So thank you.
Those thoughts are greatly appreciated, and I will pass them on to Mr Broadhurst, who's the lead on that. I think him and his team do a terrific job, and I'm glad we were able to keep going during the pandemic. I know it held things up, but there's plenty more to come. I think we're getting the funds in because we are a successful authority in dealing with this sort of work. We're getting the funds, and we'll sort of make sure that they're spread around the borough. Thank you for those thoughts.
Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick one going back to 5.8 on the antisocial behaviour, and it basically goes back to what we were discussing. The mount does look beautiful. It really does. You've done a fantastic job on it. It looks fantastic. The seafront's looking beautiful. Unfortunately, we've just got this consistent trend of people wanting to damage everything. We now have a new Police and Crime Commissioner. I'm hoping we're going to see a different route taken in how we deal with this, because we've taken this softly approach. I read the report about the fire that was set at the Marine Hall to the toilet, and it said that one of them was taken home to the parents. It was done a bit different in my day, and it tended to work. It tended to work. We need to stop this softly approach and try and deal with a few of these culprits. If we pull them out and deal with them properly, it does stop others, it does prevent others from getting involved. And I think it's time now to change tack a little bit. So is there any chance we can try and push and see what the way forward is with this?
I feel that there's every chance that we can push this forward. I think the reality is that it's painfully obvious now that we just don't have sufficient numbers of police and PCSOs for our neighbourhood policing team in Wyre. It's sad to say, but those officers have gone to other areas, and places like Wyre, places like Ribble Valley, places like Fylde have suffered, and I think the incoming Police and Crime Commissioner knows this already. He's used the words of balancing out neighbourhood policing teams. He feels that he wants to look into the level of officers in each area I'm sure we're going to get more because we need more. I mean, when we're talking about having about 6, I think it's about 6 police officers constitute the neighbourhood policing team in Wyre. Well, if you say that's to cover 24 hours, divide that by 3. We've got 2 neighbourhood policing officers to cover the whole of Wyre. We'll have some PCSOs as well, but that's how thin it's got. And I was saying this to the Police and Crime Commissioner over the years. I've made comments about how thin we were, how I felt that money there was in the bag to spend on policing in a lot of areas, and let's hope that the new Police and Crime Commissioner takes that on board. I think we are going to get a bit of support, added support, in Wyre. I think some of the neighbourhood team from Blackpool are going to join with those in Wyre over the school holidays. So I'm hoping that will give us, some added cover. But yeah, it's more police, more PCSOs.
Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Berry, my questions are around housing, specifically really the funding to support homelessness prevention. And this is something that's very close to my heart. It's one of the reasons I became a councillor, to try and make a difference in this area. Firstly, I would like to thank the council for all the stuff in here. It's all good, all the grants are good, the money's good, the support's good. I'd like to thank the council as well for the support they've given Fleetwood Together through the pandemic, which has doubtlessly helped some very vulnerable people through a very difficult time. I just think that the strategy at times is wrong, and we see it in Fleetwood all the time. And one of the major problems in Fleetwood, we've got 2 or 3 rogue landlords, they're very well known, the bad landlords, and the crisis support team, when they get people into houses, put them in these properties owned by these rogue landlords. They should be blacklisted. We should not be using these people. I went to view a property with one of my constituents, which was £420 a month. It was a room, probably a bit bigger than the viewing area there. It had 1 plug socket in the whole room. It had a tiny wardrobe, a bed, a toilet and a sink. That's what they're getting for £420 a month. That was on Bold Street. And on Bold Street again, there was another constituent who was recovering from drug and alcohol addiction. He'd moved away from Bold Street because he's recovering from drug and alcohol addiction, and his dealers lived on Bold Street and off Bold Street. And then the housing team rehoused him back on Bold Street, and he ended up getting back into drug and addiction, ended up back on the street. So I just think we need to be... All this is fantastic and we're doing great work, but we can be doing better. I think we should be doing better. It just takes a little bit of strategy, a little bit more insight into the people we're dealing with, because we can help these people better. And we're not helping anybody at the moment. We're not helping ourselves because we're spending money and it's going round in a vicious circle. I think we just need to do it a little bit more smarter. And finally, as well, there's so many empty buildings in Fleetwood. It's great that we're doing the rough sleeping thing. If it drops below 0 for three consecutive nights, that's fantastic. But we should have a permanent building that is available for people who need crisis for a night or for 2 nights at any time, that is staffed and that is there in Fleetwood.
Can I say, first of all, if you feel that accommodation in Fleetwood is substandard, please let the team know. And we will look into it, but we're just not going to sit back on these things. It's in our interest, it's in everyone's interest, that we have decent accommodation. So don't keep it to yourself. Please tell us, because we will act on it. I think nobody said how great the government has been about this homeless strategy. I think they really did really did a good job in delivering the money to local authorities so that we could look after the homeless during the pandemic and during the winter period. And, I appreciate that work that our staff have put in. There is no excuse for poor accommodation. Some people are difficult to accommodate. We've got to accept that. And not every landlord wants to take them, but that's no excuse for not having decent accommodation. But it's not the easiest of jobs to fit some people in, so we've got to bear that in mind. But yeah, your comments, so please do let us know. We'll obviously want to up standards, not lower standards. Okay, thank you very much for that point.
Councillor O'Neill, I believe you have another question. Would you like to proceed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Bowen, just going back to the policing side of things, I'm just wondering, we live in the age of technology and we see lots of marvellous things on the internet that have been filmed by drones and things like that. Can the police not think of actually starting to use drones when you've got these crowds that are forming, that are causing antisocial behaviour? If we can't have the numbers of the police, can we have an operator of a drone? Those drones can move pretty rapid and cover quite a distance. I'm pretty sure nowadays that could be a really good tool for identifying the culprits who are causing the majority of the damage. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
It's a very good point you're making. In fact, there are some drones run by the police, so they could be deployed, and that's possibly something that I can mention. I am going to see, well, I'm seeing the new inspector for Fleetwood in about 2 weeks' time. We've got a new inspector, and I'm about the same time I'll be seeing at the Lancashire Police and Crime Panel, I'll be meeting up with the new commissioner there. So it's a good point that you're raising about drones. Modern technology, we've started to use it in the police. Let's extend it. Thank you.
As there are no further questions, that concludes the consideration of the Neighbourhood and Services Community Safety Portfolio Holders Report. We'll now move on to item F, Leisure, Health and Community Engagement Portfolio Holder. Councillor Bowen, would you please like to introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I would just like to say thank you to all the people that helped in the Wyre Community Hub. NHS workers, staff from Wyre, the volunteers and community workers have done a fantastic job. The Marine Hall has had lots of bookings. Some are waiting to see what happens in 19th of July. Wedding bookings are doing well. Bifolding doors installed have been an attraction for various smaller events. Fortunately, more vandalism occurred last week, has already been stated. Oh, sorry. For the Mount and the Marine Hall has had various windows smashed, etc., costing thousands of pounds. And we did actually manage to get somebody identified on the CCTV camera, and they were setting fire to the bus stop near the Marine Hall, and it was a 9-year-old boy. So, you know, it's ridiculous, really. I don't know where the parents think they are. I'd like to congratulate Anita Fish and her team. They've been shortlisted once again for the Gold Awards, which is for outstanding overall service in the bereavement service, which they've been through quite a difficult time with, you know, what we've been through lately. Also, a fantastic scheme what we're involved with is coming up soon. Wyre Holiday Activity and Food Programme for children 14 to 16 who receive school meals can have 4 days a week for 4 hours a day for 4 weeks in the summer holidays and 1 week at Christmas at various locations. The summer camps are going to be held at Thornton and Fleetwood by the YMCA. It's a government funded and the allocation is being done by LCC. They're also going to pay for a coordinator post for 2.5 days a week. So there's 2,826 children eligible in Wyre. And let's hope they all come forward. Not all of them, of course, but, you know, a vast majority. I think it's a fantastic scheme. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments for Councillor Bowen? I believe it's Councillor Fail.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With regard to the reopening of our gyms and pools, the membership figures seem promising. However, I think it would be helpful to members if they could be provided with some detail around overall usage and the resulting financial impact on the council in terms of its subsidy to the YMCA. Can that be arranged when it becomes available, that information? And with regard to the reopening of Poulton, the Labour group were hoping that the pool would be open, ready for the start of the school holidays. Your report states that plans are underway for a reopening later in the summer. Can you be more precise and also provide some detail as to where COVID testing would be relocated to enable that to happen? Thank you.
Well, first of all, Poulton was always going to be opened in September when the NHS have finished there. It's not up to the council to know where they're going to relocate. It's up to the NHS. And for the figures, I've only got the figures up to the end of May. And hopefully in another couple of weeks I'll have June as well, and then we'll have a better idea. But the figures so far do look quite encouraging. And I think all the leisure centres are they've got quite a few new members as well. So I think it's going to be a good especially with it $199 cheaper membership. But also that's supposed to finish at the end of June. But we're doing a £25 a month membership, and that works out cheaper as well for the whole year, as well as an £18 membership for just using the pool. If that's what if you don't want to use everything, just use the pool. That's a cheaper option as well. So we're doing everything we can to encourage people in.
Councillor Robinson.
I've only got it up to the end of May, and the net gain per centre for members is Fleetwood 448, Thornton 353, and Garstang 124.
Councillor Baxter, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Bowen, I'm aware that the 199 offer has been a great success and all involved should be credited with that. However, due to COVID, it has led to some capacity issues when booking the likes of a swimming slot or a gym class. Do you know if it is the YMCA's intention to remove these capacity limits after July the 19th, or are they set to remain in place for a period? Thank you.
Well, we're hoping to remove all those limits on July the 19th, but of course we're still depending on government guidelines and see where we go from there.
Councillor Longton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Bowen, regarding 3.1 in your report, I'd first like to thank and congratulate our environmental health team on their sterling efforts, particularly with regard to local test and trace activities. Given the government's privatised National Test and Trace Service costing £37 billion, which is a third of the cost of the entire UK annual NHS budget, has been described as having a marginal impact, what is being done to ensure we have sufficient local resources to meet this scandalous national shortfall?
Well, it's not up to the council to sort the test and trace out. It's up to the NHS, so I can't answer that.
As there are no more questions or comments, that concludes the consideration of the Leisure, Health and Community Engagement Portfolio Holders Report. Now is the opportunity for members of the Cabinet to make their comments or to ask questions on reports of their colleagues. Do any Cabinet member wish to do so? That concludes the consideration of executive reports. We will now move on to Agenda 9, which is the Treasury Management Activity 2021. Councillor Michael Vincent, would you please introduce the report and propose the recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report's before members, and I'm happy to propose the recommendations.
As there's no comments or... Oh, pardon? Oh, sorry, can I have a seconder for that, please?
Happy to second that, Madam Mayor.
It's a good job you were nodding then. Are there any comments or questions or amendments? That will take us straight to the vote. Would members please vote now on the recommendations? Those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. That word. Can't say that word. Unanimous. The recommendation is approved. The next item is a report on updating zero emissions target, item 10. Councillor Henderson, would you please introduce the report and propose the recommendations?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report is before members. We are taking the lead set by the government on this, but that certainly doesn't stop Wyre from trying to push along as fast as we can. And if we can outstrip people on the net zero emissions targets the same way that we can do on the vaccinations, it'll be absolutely super. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the proposal? Are there any comments, questions and amendments? Councillor Fail.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Before last week, Canada had never recorded a temperature of greater than 45 degrees centigrade. Over 3 consecutive days last week, Canada recorded temperatures of 46.6 centigrade, 47.8 degrees centigrade and 49.6 degrees centigrade. The heat wave resulted in more than 300 excess deaths. Extreme weather conditions such as this are becoming more frequent across the globe. Such events are a reminder, not that we should need it, that we must act now. David Attenborough said recently, if we bring emissions down with sufficient vigour, we may yet avoid the tipping points that will
Councillor
make...
Fair, would you just like to stop? Who's got the phone going? Could somebody turn that phone off, please?
Is it you, Alice?
Somebody's Twitter tweeting.
Your dinner's ready, Alice.
It's not my phone, it's my husband's phone.
His dinner's ready then.
Councillor Fair, would you like to continue, please?
Thank you.
Sorry for that, Councillor Fair.
That's okay. David Attenborough said recently, if we bring emissions down with sufficient vigour, we may yet avoid the tipping points that will make runaway climate change unstoppable. The Council is taking steps to get to net zero emissions, but are we doing so with sufficient vigour? It's a moot point, but we should be aiming to get there as soon as we possibly can. As a local authority, we should be going the extra mile to get there as soon as we possibly can. In July 2019, Wyre Labour Group's climate change motion proposed net zero emissions by 2030, in line with many other councils. Disappointingly, it was watered down to 2050 in the Conservative amended motion that was passed by Council. The proposals before us are an improvement on the current 2050 target, and we welcome that, but they fall short of the Labour Group's net zero by 2030 proposal in July 2019, which was based on advice by international scientists that most of the required action needs to be taken in the next decade. These new proposals recognise a number of options, one of which is for a target of net zero emissions by 2035, a target more in keeping with the need for action in the next decade. Although not as ambitious as our 2030 proposal...
Councillor Fail, I'm sorry, your time is up. I did allow for you for the disturbance, but I'm sorry, your time's up. It's got 1 minute left. Right. Well, I'll let you carry on then. I'm being rather ruthless, I say.
Yeah.
That's a minute to read quick, Rob.
Yeah, I've nearly finished, Madam Mayor. Although not as ambitious as our 2030 proposal 2 years ago, it is a compromise we hope all members support. And with that, I ask members to support an amendment to 2.1, replacing 78% by 2035 with 100% by 2035. It's a fairly straightforward amendment to that proposal on 2.1. To conclude, let's remind ourselves what David Attenborough believes is at stake. The collapse of our civilization and the extinction of much of the natural world is on the horizon. Thank you.
Councillor Fail, is there a seconder for that?
I'd like to second...
Before I shout at you again.
I'd like to second that motion, please, and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And as the proposed amendment doesn't negate the intention of the recommendation, that is an acceptable amendment. So, members, you have now the opportunity to actually comment on that amendment, and then Councillor Fail can comment at the end, and Councillor Sturziker, you've reserved the right to speak. So if any members would like to speak on the amendment, can you please indicate?
Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I couldn't support that. We went through this before. The 100% by 2050 is attainable. It's sensible, and now the 78% by 2035 puts a little bit more pressure on us, but that is attainable as well. And I feel that when I spoke on this before, it was a case of that's a figure. That's the figure that we want to get to. If we get there in 5 years, brilliant. If we get there in 10 years, brilliant. That's a figure that is attainable, and that is what we shall work for. 100%, you're looking at people possibly wanting to carbon offset, pay money for somebody else to sort it out. That's not us. We're going to reduce our emissions within the council, and therefore we will then also try to influence other people to follow. So I couldn't support that, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much indeed.
Councillor Vincent.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The simple fact is that at the moment, in my view, the technology doesn't exist to get us to net zero by 2035, and that's the problem. 78% commitment is actually quite a bold, brave step, and one that I believe should be supported. We are taking whatever steps we can to reduce our carbon footprint. We will continue to take them. It's been made very clear by Councillor Henderson when he introduced the report that that our aim is to reduce them as quickly as we can. We talked about this at a recent meeting. There are lots of low-hanging fruit. There's lots of easy ways we can drive that number down reasonably easily and reasonably inexpensively, because 2035, net zero, it may be possible. I may be wrong about the technology, but I tell you what, we can't afford it, because if it does exist, it's low and expensive. Bearing in mind as well that we've pretty much, I mean, there have been obviously a reduction in our carbon footprint, but it's been quite difficult through the pandemic to do that work. I know the committee has continued to meet. I know it continues to do good work, but we haven't had the resources to invest in the things that we perhaps need to do because we've had a pandemic to deal with. So 2030 net zero would definitely have been unattainable. 2035 is also unattainable, but we should also, I'm happy to commit that we'll try and get to net zero by 2035, but we should not make a firm commitment in this chamber that we will definitely be able to do so, because it's not a commitment I think we can make.
Councillor Robert Atkins, would you like to speak on the amendment?
No, I don't want to speak on the amendment, Madam Mayor. I wanted to speak on the report generally, so perhaps you could advise me.
You can't do that until we've carried on, and then we'll go back.
So when the amendment is voted on, I can come back to the report.
You may, yes. Councillor Armstrong?
Yeah, I just want to speak in favour of the amendment. The technology is there. It does exist. There's plenty of evidence you can go to find it. One of the things we can do to push this through as a council, it's something we've been working on in the Climate Change Policy Group. We can change our planning laws. We can push as a council. We can lobby central government to change their planning laws, to change the National Planning Committee's planning laws, because this is one of the key things. Because houses can be net zero. Every house now could be built net zero. The technology is there, and we could be able to get government grants. It is affordable because you can get government grants, and are the government going to turn down grants for making properties net zero when their own target is to get to net zero? I don't think they would. So there is stuff that we can do as a council. I think the council needs to come together on this, put the pressure on central government and set our target for 2035, and that should be where we are.
Councillor Sturzik, you reserve the right to speak. Would you like to speak now?
Leading climate scientists back in 2018 warned us we had 12 years to take global carbon emissions to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Any more would impact on the risks of drought, floods, extreme heat and consequently more poverty for hundreds of millions of people. I understand Wyre isn't responsible for the global climate change, but we must, and we all agree, do all we can to prevent this. We're already working on it. Our own data declares a 16% drop in emissions for the financial year 1920. The UK as a whole has provisional estimates of a 10.7 drop in carbon emissions for the year 2020. To achieve net zero by 2030, our own data states we would need an average of 9.1% drop per year. This makes 100% net zero carbon emissions by 2035 far more achievable and a compromise with our ambitious 2030 plan. Let's do this. Let's work towards a zero emissions council. Net zero, sorry.
Would the proposer of the amendment please like to respond to the debate? That's Councillor Fail.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Many residents alive today could well witness the impact of global warming on the Fylde coast, with many areas potentially underwater by 2050 if we do not act. The saying is, shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. We can and must be ambitious, but more than anything, we need a target more in keeping with the need for action in the next decade. Please support the amendment.
We will now move to the vote on the amendment. Those in favour, please show. Those against? There is a majority against. Oh, sorry. Do you want me to read it out? Oh, right. Any abstentions? That was everybody. Oh, two, three. The amendment is lost, so we will therefore continue to the debate of the original motion. Councillor Atkins, would you like to come forward?
Madam Mayor, thank you very much indeed. I just wanted to comment on the report proper. First of all, to congratulate the leadership on bringing this report forward. As colleagues will know, we had a major debate on this early in this council, in which we came up with a climate change policy group, which, if I may say so, having the privilege of chairing it, has been very much a cross-party activity, and I've been very grateful for colleagues across the political dimension for the comments that they've made. And as colleagues will know, we've now appointed an environmental officer specifically serving our committee. The reason I wanted to comment on this, though, and rather than the actual debate that Councillor Fail instigated, is particularly under paragraph 5.5. One of the things that colleagues who serve on that policy group will be aware of is that we have tried very hard to involve parish and town councils in coming forward with ideas. And initially, prior to the pandemic, we did a bit with schools and other organisations, which fell by the wayside because of the difficulties. But there's one message I want to give to colleagues, please. Where you have a parish or a town council, can you please go and find a backside and kick it very hard indeed to try and get from those parish and town councils a commitment and ideas about what we could and should be doing. We read in the papers that the public want to do things, but they are not necessarily as well informed as they ought to be, and we have a responsibility to try and do something about it. We've done a bit already on the red bins and the recycling, and there is more to come. But the point I make is that we have an education responsibility, and as it says here, we need to set an example, under 5.5, we need to set an example for other organisations by demonstrating leadership on climate change. What Councillor Fail and his colleagues have been talking about is a matter of degree, and we can disagree about that degree. But what we all agree on is that we need to be doing something, and we need to be doing it now. So my message really is to try and get across to the public as a whole and to our residents that if we are to achieve this success, whether it's in recycling or in planning or whatever other area is important, we need to get a grip of it. And I don't think we have got a grip of it yet, even though officers are working very hard within the borough organisation to do things about lights and about recycling and about the buildings and all the rest of it. That's good. But we have to get the message around and about. Colleagues on the policy group have been very supportive and have come up with various ideas, but we are getting frustrated because the leadership from the top all the way through this council on a pretty non-partisan basis is not having the effect upon our residents and upon our borough that we think we ought to. And so please, colleagues, carry that message back to parish and town councils, and if you live in Poulton or Thornton or Cleveland, where there doesn't appear to be a parish council, then we need to find other ways of getting that message across. And I urge you to do so. And in conclusion, to congratulate the leader and his team on pushing on with this and giving the support that's been necessary to the Climate Change Policy Group to achieve this degree of success so far.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson, you wish to speak on the original proposal?
It's actually just a comment. Well, it's just a comment that obviously Sir Roberts has just said now. With my other hat on, obviously I'm a parish councillor as well. And on Tuesday we had a meeting. This was on the agenda because Sir Robert, as from the chairman of the Climate Change Policy Group, we had it on our agenda, and with working with our village hall, which is Hambleton Village Hall, which I know everybody has got areas that they can work with. We work with them, and the refurbishing of the village hall, they put LED lights on. They think of putting compost bins on the parks, and they're all looking into putting maybe electric point on the village hall. So actually, Hambleton, like I say, it's just a little areas, all mate make a little bit, and also we've done some wildflower planting as you come into the village. And thank you for the team at Wyre, because the park team has helped us, to do that as well. So little areas that will make a big difference in the long run. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor George.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's great that we're talking about climate change again. I think it's something that we can't over talk about. I was slightly disappointed that I haven't seen anywhere any more discussion on us putting forward the use of reusable products. It's been asked a number of times, both in various meetings and things. 7% of our waste is, and I'm sorry if anyone is squeamish, but 7% of our waste is nappies and sanitary products. And we are very, very easily, as a council, able to combat that. We can, all we have to do is link together companies that provide cloth nappies, that provide reusable products. And yes, there might be some incentive involved and there might be some financing involved, but there doesn't actually have to be. A lot of councils don't provide financial incentives for that. And I've been pushing for some time for this now. It's been mentioned at various different levels. And I think it's a shame that it's something that's not being discussed, because again, it's 7% of our waste. It takes 99 years for a disposable nappy to actually disintegrate completely. Okay, it becomes jelly and everything, but 99 years. We can very easily combat that issue very quickly.
As there are no more comments, questions or amendments, Councillor Henderson, as the proposer of the recommendations, would you please like to respond to the debate?
No, Madam Mayor, I propose that we go straight to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, would you please vote now on the recommendations? Those in favour, please raise your hand. Those against? Any abstentions? The recommendation has been approved. The next item is item 11, appointments to committees and groups. Councillor Henderson, would you please introduce the report and propose the recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report is before members. The recommendations there are at 3.1 to 3.4. Thank you.
Is there a seconder for the proposal? Thank you. Are there any comments, questions or amendments? No? Could we, hang on a second, could we go straight to, let me get my next sheet, the vote. So that concludes the no debate. So would members please vote now on the recommendations? Those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. The next appointment is outside body. I practice that in the mirror and it never comes out right, along with bottles and hospitals. Item 12, appointment to outside bodies. Councillor Henderson, would you please introduce the report and propose the recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The report is before members. The recommendation there is at 3.1.
Is there a seconder for the proposal? Are there any comments, questions or amendments? No, thank you. So, members, we will now go to the vote. Those in favour, please show. That's everybody. Item 13, notices of motion. However, there are none, so that concludes the business for this evening and the meeting is closed. Thank you. Have a wonderful summer, everybody. Take care.